Ghoulies, and here we are once again on Dr. Destruction's Crimson Theater. I had to pause there to figure out which show I'm doing. That's the case these days. And we have with us again the Dudes of the Dead. Adolfo and Rick are here.
How's it going?
Getting ready for a big convention coming up in Indianapolis. Of course, Lilith Lovecraft, of course, our resident ghoul,
Hello.
is with us as well. And you guys are gearing up for a big one this time. And, well, all I can say is you've got Godzilla.
Yeah, that doesn't get bigger.
That's pretty major.
Doesn't get bigger than the Big G. I mean, I feel like I say this every year, but I think that this is probably one of my favorite guest lists that we've done. I mean, you mentioned the Big G, but we have another Big G in George Romero,
right?
Who's the godfather of the zombie genre. Couple of other guests are Sting, which Lilith I'm sure appreciates.
Oh my gosh, so excited for Sting
and Lita too.
Yes.
Also on the wrestling angle, we got Charles Wright, who's done Papa Shango and The Godfather. We've got Dee Snider, representing the music angle, Dawn of the Dead reunion. So it's got a little bit of everything, and I think it's very representative of what Days of the Dead is. A little bit of horror, a little bit of rock and roll, a little bit of wrestling. It's just all the things that we, as a show, love.
Well, certainly the wrestling fits in because horror fans usually always are fans of wrestling as well.
And just so for the record, you heard it from Dr. Destruction, because I seem to always get a lot of heat every time we announce a wrestler. I mean, like, people are tripping over themselves to point out that they've never been in a horror movie, but I think it fits. I mean, I think that, going back to even like George the Animal Steel, I mean, there's been a history of wrestlers in the horror genre. There's been horror elements put into wrestling, just like, with heavy metal and punk rock.
Roddy Piper was in that They Live, right? I mean, yeah. But it isn't so much, to me, it isn't so much that they are, whether or not they're in a horror film, it's the fans crossover.
Right, that subculture marries together so beautifully. Yeah.
Just reminds me of going to Beautiful Bert's apartment, and it'd be nothing but horror monster models, posters, Henry Rocks posters, and wrestling figures.
Well, you never see anybody complaining when you have a musical guest, so I don't understand why they would complain about a wrestling guest, too.
They do every now and then, and then, but I mean, it's just, and just to not give the impression that it's widespread, it's just a handful of really loud people on the internet that just feel so, I don't know, they take it really personally. They get like really offended that they're just going to have to share some of the convention space with Sting,
If you don't want to see the wrestler, just don't go bother. Don't go by the wrestler then. I don't know.
But
you're doing yourself a great disservice by not talking to the wrestlers, though, because they've got the best stories. They're super personable. They'll give you the industry inside stuff a lot more than our general celebs. They stay out to the parties. The wrestling guests, I would say, hands down, can be some of the most fun guests you'll be around all weekend. I mean, they're just super cool. I don't get that either, but.
Well, and I made a video last year during Shawn Michaels' line, which it's made the rounds on the internet, where I start filming at the beginning of Shawn Michaels' line, and I walk all the way to the very end, and it's like 6 minutes of me walking to the end of the line. Hundreds of people. And if you look closely in the crowd, it's not hundreds of people only in wrestling shirts. It's not hundreds of people that are just there for Shawn Michaels. The majority of them are wearing Phantasm shirts, Dawn of the Dead shirts, Reanimator shirts, Nightmare on Elm. I mean, like, they're representing the horror genre. So there is that crossover.
Right.
So I don't understand where the heat comes from.
But I mean, we totally get it. There's a 1 hour wrestling report every night on our weekly radio show.
Well, there you go. There you go.
And I haven't heard that much guff about that.
Oh, about
the radio, on the radio. We do it every night. So.
Oh, it's because Lilith is doing it. I can't get away with that.
Are you willing to say that if you have a charming woman, people will swallow anything?
I'm just saying that two stiffs like us, we can't get away with as much.
Yeah.
Well, that is a novelty, we'll say. I don't know how many girls like Lilith out there that are into wrestling that. I see them at the shows.
You see them at the show.
People get so passionate about those shows, and like I said, the fans always crossed over, especially if they like Godzilla movies. They usually like wrestling, so
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense there.
It does.
Dee Snider, he had his little horror opera bit going on for a while there too.
Yeah,
10
with
years or so ago.
Strangeland.
Yeah, and that was 25 years of Strangeland.
I think it's 20 or 25.
25 years
Yeah.
anniversary for Strangeland, which is pretty cool. That was that movie was pretty neat, and it was one of those few crossovers where you get a rock and roll star to star in the movie, and it actually had some tact to it and believable, in the sense of sometimes you get them acting and the crossover just doesn't work as well.
Kiss Meets the Phantom come to mind. I witnessed that as a very young child, so
That explains a lot.
there you go. But you got George Romero. That's
Yes.
major.
Yeah.
Usually he's got a line around the hotel every time I've seen him anywhere.
Yeah, and it's great to be able. We actually did him a couple of years ago at sort of our like pop culture experiment, Culture Shock, and it was a great show. But being in February, we kind of got hit with a blizzard, and so a lot of fans got left out of that one. So it's good to be bringing him back and working with George again. And the response, much like last time, has been absolutely phenomenal. And he's one of my horror idols. The two films that got me into watching creepy things were Night of the Living Dead and the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers from '56 or so. So, I mean, having George Romero in anything we do is an absolute honor, and I look forward to having him again.
That's awesome. It's all you guys. It's always a great time. And November last year was great being back there with Alice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a little
that was
we got the Spinal Tap tour though. You remember that? You've seen the movie Spinal Tap where they're bringing them through the back, and that's pretty much what happened. You brought us back through the kitchen, the mega laundromat,
through craft services, everything.
Oh, that really was a riot. So you guys do a great job. I don't know anybody that's got more of a fan-friendly, family atmosphere really to it, and people could bring their families, and it's just it's a rocking time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you want to speak to that or.
Oh no! I mean, I think our fans, the families that come, and we've got an 18th birthday. People just taking an experience and doing that at our show and celebrating, that 4th of July or that precursor to 4th of July weekend. It's a good time. I mean, there's just a lot of good people and it's always a fun time.
Indy's always great.
Indy's great.
Just
Indy's
a great
the
bunch of
homecoming
people
show.
down, and so many horror fans and cool bands. And you got a band though. What's their name again?
The Casket Creatures.
The Casket Creatures.
We had them in Atlanta. They're actually Atlanta locals, and they played our show at Atlanta. And we liked them so much that we were like, you got to bring it to Indianapolis. But they got kind of like sort of like a horror punk vibe, more of a newer melodic punk. But they bring in the theatrical element as well. They, all the songs are about horror movies and stuff like that.
There seems to be sort of a movement going there.
Yeah,
And some of them down in Cincinnati, that it seemed like there's a more, they've got the horror punk rockabilly kind of thing too, that side of it. But I embrace all that. I mean, I can't help but like it.
They're a great group of guys, and they're going to be playing Friday night. And I have a feeling it won't be the last time you see them in the Midwest. If everything works out, we'll probably have them in Louisville. Just a super fun band, and they absolutely bring it.
Yeah, they blew us away. And the other thing too is that they couldn't be any cooler and fun to work with and wanting to do bigger and better things. And I think Indy's in for a real treat.
That's really great. You get sort of like the gothic horror prom rock and roll concert too at a show. I know you've had a couple of bands at the Chicago shows that I've been to, and it just makes the whole thing just you get to unwind. Whether you're, I suppose there's some between the fans and the vendors. There's probably a little bit of like tension on both sides a little bit, because a lot of fans are worried about meeting everybody they want to meet or whatnot, because there's only so much time. So it's just an adrenaline rush the entire time, and you don't know who you're gonna. Sometimes you don't know who you're gonna see at one of these things.
Well, we're even making it harder this year. We started out in Atlanta, but we're doing it again in Indianapolis because it's so well received. What we call the Blue Track. Now before we had just one track of panels, and it was basically just celebrity Q&As and stuff like that. But we've added a whole other track that's has more of an independent creative focus. Like they have a panel on, the sideshow's role in horror. And we have the Captain and Maybell, who are world-renowned sideshow performers. They do sword swallowing, they do the human blockhead, they do all sorts of stuff that they're going to come out and not only talk about the history of sideshow, but also, give a little bit of an insight as to what they do. We have another panel where it's the relationship between horror and metal. So we have various musicians and different bands from Indiana that are coming out.
That seems like it was a match made
Yeah,
in
match made
heaven
in
or
hell.
hell. I mean, the crossover, it's like rock and roll and horror movies kind of always been like
peanut
together.
butter and jelly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now we have that going on, as well as like the 48-hour film festival where we're screening films from the time we open to the time we close. We got the celebrity panels. We got a lot of the special events like the tattoo contest, the costume contest. So we want to overload you with things to do. Like if you come to Days of the Dead and you can't find something to do, then we're probably not the show for you, because we're just like,
if you got that far and you can't find nothing to do,
yeah,
well, then,
you got a problem.
Yeah, right. Maybe the public libraries should.
And not to double back, but getting back to that film festival, that's 48 hours. Jason Hoover, the guy that runs that, Kearns movies from all over the world. So it's not even just, American independent horror. He's picking out gems that you won't hear from for a little while yet. Some of them are even in talks with, like the Netflixes and stuff. So this is your chance to see a lot of this stuff first.
Yeah.
Right.
Which
Well,
is pretty cool. This year's lineup's the best too, because I'm in one of them.
Apparently, talking with Hulu and Netflix and whatever must be very time consuming.
So you're in one of them?
Yeah.
What?
The body's in room 223, I believe.
223 or 226?
226. The body's in some hotel room. I just have a small cameo. I play kind of like a Drexel Spivey character and get to like rough up our DJ Harry Bean and throw him in the trunk of my car. And
That's pretty
it's just
cool.
a small little, yeah. It was pretty cool. I drove to Indiana, and we shot some scenes like at a really sketch motel at like 2 a.m, and then out in like some farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, and then I drove back, and just something fun.
Yeah, that's always good to to get those cameos and the independents. The independent films are really, I think, where my heart is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
Hollywood's bumming me out.
And there's a lot of good stuff coming out too. I like, just to reference a few movies, The Void and 47 Meters Down looks really good. And these aren't major blockbusters, but that's the kind of stuff we like to hopefully get at the film fest, is movies like this that are up and coming.
The Void was rad.
Yeah, it was really good.
It
was really good.
I dug it.
It's really cool.
It's got like a real. Have you seen it?
No.
It's got like it reminded me of a hodgepodge of all the 80s movies that I really love. Like it's got, like a lot of homage to The Thing. It's got a little bit of Clive Barker in it. It's got a lot of like Lovecraft in it, to where, like people are sort of tinkering with something that's, from a world interdimensional, from a world beyond, and they open up a portal to something awful. It reminded me a lot too of The Beyond, the Italian film The Beyond. If you want another reference, but it was cool. It mixed a lot of that stuff together. It had practical effects which were friggin' awesome. Definitely recommend checking it out. It's on demand. I think you can get it for like $4 or $5.
All right, we'll be back with more from the dudes of the dead after we got to get into tonight's movie. Okay. The Astounding She-Monster. I think I might have dated her. I got to take a second look, but get into this one. Really amazing. The Astounding She-Monster on Dr. Destruction's Crimson Theater.
Right on.
I hope you're enjoying the Astounding She-Monster as much as I am. I mean, if you could get that outfit any tighter, I don't think you could, but she's just glowing with enthusiasm.
It's astounding she fits in it.
Just barely. They painted it on, maybe. I don't know.
Probably.
I guess they wouldn't show this movie for a while because they thought she looked like she was naked too much, which is probably, considering the film, the filmmakers probably were going for that. Left nothing to the imagination.
Sounds about right.
Of course, she's killing people left and right, though. But, you got to love this stuff from the 50s. It was just, everything was from outer space.
Outer space or radiation or just large.
So what else? We've been talking a lot about what's going to happen at Days of the Dead, Indy. That's coming right up.
It's 2
And
weeks.
2 weeks from
Depending on when this airs, but very
broadcasting
soon.
air. But this will be reused for training purposes.
There we go.
Later on. But now, what's the full roster of guests? We've only talked about a few.
Ooh,
That
wow.
was a good. I think one of the big ones we missed out on was spoiler alert. One of the killers from Scream. Matthew
Oh, there you
Lillard.
go.
I'm really excited to meet him.
Yes.
He's been in so many movies that I love, and he's such a talented actor. I'm very, very excited for that guest.
Yeah, I actually, I don't know if anybody's been following the Twin Peaks revival, but he's actually in the first few episodes, which he absolutely kills. And I'm actually excited to meet him because of that. I mean, aside from Scream and a million other things, but sorry, go on.
We got some Dawn of the Dead guests. Some
Yeah.
Day of the Dead guests. I mean, it's a pretty hefty list. But
The Jasons.
oh yeah,
Talk
yeah.
about the Jasons.
Yeah, C.J. Graham, Steve Dash, doing photo ops in costume, which would be pretty cool.
Wow.
We've got this really good FX prop maker, Bryce Alexander, who does basically, I don't know, he acquires these props that are.
He does it
just-
somehow.
Yeah, he
We're not
finds a
asking
way,
questions.
and some of them are very, they're beautiful. I mean, so these photo ops are going to look real authentic with some actual props. It's going to be cool.
Props from movies or people doing really cool props?
Both, yeah.
Both. Yeah, I know there's a guy, there's a Aurora Model Kit page on Facebook that I love. But there's a guy that did a total reproduction of Aurora Model Company's Wolfman.
Huh.
It looks just like him. I mean, it was a really buff looking Wolfman. You wouldn't, Frankenstein wouldn't have stood a chance, especially with them claws that the Wolfman had, So there's just like incredible stuff in the mask making world and prop world happening. It's very exciting.
And to give Bryce a little bit more of a shout out, he's actually, I mean, we've been so lucky to have him come into our camp, because not only does he do really cool things for some of the photo ops that we do, but he also creates the sets and the decor for our panel room. And we started just commissioning him to do that, and then in Atlanta he showed up with a complete remake of the Laurie Strode house. He showed up with a complete replica of the boiler, life-sized replica of the boiler room from Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, he's just building houses that you could live in, and he has them set up all around the convention center, which I think is amazing, because a horror convention should look and feel like a horror convention. It shouldn't look like a bunch of tables at a window. It should look like
I
you're
agree with
walking
you.
through Halloween, or there's danger around